all civilian crew to orbit. And the following year, Dragon flew Axiom Mission 1, the first all-private astronaut mission to the International Space Station in collaboration with Axiom Space. Now, the first of now 4 flights together with Axiom Space to take commercial crews from around the world to the International Space Station. In September of 2024, the Polaris Dawn mission delivered the first commercial spacewalk. And most recently in March, Dragon supported the From-2 and NASA Crew 10 missions. AX-4 is Dragon's second human spaceflight mission to splashdown off the coast of California after From-2 returned Dragon recovery operations to the West Coast just this past April. And from that first crew mission in May of 2020 to Axiom 4 today, Dragon has supported 18 human spaceflight missions and flown 70 crew members representing 20 countries. Overall, Dragon has flown 53 missions, carrying over 300,000 pounds of cargo to space. In the history of human spaceflight, fewer than 700 people have ever been to orbit. At SpaceX, we want to help create a future where not just hundreds of people, but thousands and ultimately millions of people can travel off Earth to live and work in space and on other planets.
Yeah, Jesse, you mentioned basically all that lineage of the Dragon spacecraft, and it's sometimes easy to get lost in the numbers. But it really does highlight how we've built, the same as what we were talking earlier for building on missions, right? We built to get where we are as a space industry with the Dragon flying, and it's allowed us to provide missions like AX-1 up through AX-4 together, like you mentioned, but collaboratively. And each of us, it allows each of us to play a role in these missions supporting. And so I always really love the teamwork aspect of this commercial spaceflight endeavor, and I think what you just mentioned there really highlights that.
Yeah, and just the exponential growth. It's only been 5 years since SpaceX has been a part of this in history. And it's really cool to see how much we've been able to do.
Exactly.
And we are about 30 seconds or so away from the expected ending of the deorbit burn, so we should be potentially hearing that call out, but if we don't hear the call out on the nets, we will confirm when that deorbit burn is complete.
Exactly. And like we mentioned earlier, while we're waiting on those calls, we're still able to view some of the telemetry and insight to the vehicle that we have too. So once we kind of get some awareness that the vehicle is done doing its deorbit burn, we should shortly hear a call after that. But at that point, it's a good reminder that those calls, the telemetry, it serves as an operational synchronization point for all of us to kind of say, a major dynamic operation has just happened. Now, how are we going to regain the situational awareness to say, okay, everybody's back on the same page so we can continue executing all of the flight procedures that we have. So,
yeah, exactly. And we are awaiting the conclusion of the deorbit burn.
And again, after that deorbit burn ends, we'll move into claw separation, trunk separation, or trunk jettison rather, and then we'll move into nose cone closure for the rest of the mission. Yeah.
We are just in the beginning of the multiple dynamic events that we have left to bring the AX-4 crew safely back home to planet Earth.
Exactly.
And we do have our recovery ship Shannon waiting patiently in the Pacific Ocean. We do have a targeted splashdown zone, so the crew aboard the recovery vessel is there waiting, and once they splash down into the water, we'll send a couple fast boats, and then the recovery ship vessel Shannon will meet the crew, lift the Dragon spacecraft on board to the ship, help the crew get out of Dragon.
And yes, literally half an hour that we will witness that moment of the Axiom 4 astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla all set to return to Earth, splashing down on the coast of California. For the moment, we slip into a short commercial break. We'll be back on the other side, getting you every second as we lead up on this non-stop rolling coverage. Please stay tuned.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
How is he always winning?
Gotta head on spin, never blending, dripping in, dripping like so clean.
Moto G96 5G.
Eyes on you.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Khadge and Rahul meets with Bihar Congress leaders. Plan to go door-to-door against voter list revision. Trump threatens Russia with tariffs if war on Ukraine isn't resolved within 50 days. West Indies bowled out for 27 against Australia.
India Today smashes viewership charts. Number 1 round the clock across the week. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The headlines start here. 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. We own prime time. Unfake, unfuzzy, unfixed viewership. True number 1 channel. This is India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
How is he always winning?
Gotta head on spin, never blending, dripping in, dripping like so clean.
Moto G96 5G.
Eyes on you.
Hello, Moto.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Thank you for staying tuned to India Today, our non-stop rolling coverage as we build up to the big splashdown moment. So Shubhanshu Shukla, all set to return to Earth. Joining me on the broadcast is my colleague Akshita Nandgopal as we take our viewers through the latest of what particular stage this mission stands at. Akshita, let's quickly flash those details also on our screens of Shubhanshu Shukla beginning the re-entry process. Dragon capsule's deorbit burn that is complete, and next we understand, Akshita, that the Dragon capsule will re-enter the orbit, and that will happen in less than 30 minutes that Shubhanshu Shukla will splash down. Explain this particular stage.
So what's happening right now, Suesha, if I were to break it down for our viewers, is that currently you've had the deorbit burn happen. What does that do? It kind of slows down the capsule so it's not, ramming into the Earth's surface, into the ocean at full speed. Next, now what is happening in the next few minutes, we should get that confirmation, is the nose cone of the Dragon capsule will be closed. Why is this done? It's not really a technical aspect, but essentially to ensure that SpaceX can reuse that particular head of the capsule. You know that SpaceX is all about reusing their equipment, so that's why the nose cone is being closed. That's the only reason it's being done. It doesn't really aid in the splashdown per se. But next, the most exciting bit is you can officially say that Group Captain Shukla and the rest of the crew is back home, back on planet Earth, because essentially now we will see the re-entry into the orbit that's expected in the next few minutes. Once that happens, it means officially they're back on planet Earth, and then in the next 25 minutes, as we're showing on our screens, at exactly 3 p.m. is when the splashdown will occur. I'm not sure if you remember, Suesha, but there were those pictures when Sunita Williams had returned of the parachutes being deployed and then that capsule just perfectly landing in the middle of the ocean. That's exactly what you're going to see right now with that picture-perfect splashdown. But we are expecting that because, it's literally about middle of the night in the area where it's landing in America off the Pacific Ocean. It will be dark, so we're still keeping our fingers crossed that we'll be able to witness that amazing moment of the splashdown. But let's just dip in, Suesha, to what's also happening right now. You can see that the Axiom Group and SpaceX, they're currently discussing in their live stream also the latest updates. So we're getting that communication of what's happening between Dragon capsule and Houston, which is coordinating the splashdown. Let's listen into that.
Great call out there.
Okay, we're just going to wait for that audio because we have to keep dipping in and dipping out. We're very excited. You can make out in the frame that we've made here in our studios. We've virtually transported ourselves to space, Suesha, because we can't be where Group Captain Shukla is. So we made up for it by being here and creating a virtual set where it looks like we're at least on board the International Space Station. We'll have to make do with that. But 24 minutes away from Shuk's coming home.
Right.
At 3 p.m. is when the landing will happen, the splashdown. Let's cut across live now.
SpaceX's second crew mission to splash down in one of the new locations. From 2 was the first in April earlier this year. The new splashdown locations are near Los Angeles, Oceanside, and San Diego. And spreading the supported sites across multiple locations helps to maximize the return opportunities for this mission and future crews, lowering the chance that we'll have to wave off due to bad weather. So our fully equipped recovery vessel Shannon is stationed in Long Beach, California, and is currently standing by to support splashdown today.
That's right, and like you said earlier, we'll be expecting to have that splashdown right off the coast of San Diego, as you can see on your graphic there. So we take into account many different variables, including what landing sites have favorable weather. And SpaceX teams have selected the primary landing site, as we just mentioned, as San Diego. Now, there are a number of weather-related items that play into splashdown and recovery operations. Some of the more obvious factors that impact operations are rain or chance of lightning in the recovery zone, both for the safety of the crew inside, obviously, but also for the recovery teams, as we've discussed, on the water. So we're looking for wind speeds that are less than 15 feet per second, or about 10 miles per hour, and relatively calm seas so that we can safely execute recovery operations. And these recovery operations include a lot, right? It's landing a helicopter on the recovery ship to fly our crew back to shore, but it's also pulling the Dragon spacecraft into Shannon, the recovery vehicle.
Yeah, and as we've been mentioning, there are a number of variables and criteria that come into play, and they all help ensure safety of both the crew and the recovery teams. But weather conditions today are looking great in Southern California near San Diego, and for these operations, SpaceX closely coordinates with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safety zone to ensure public safety and for the safety of those involved in the recovery operations, as well as the crew on board the returning spacecraft. Now, multiple notices are issued to the mariners in advance and during recovery operations, and Coast Guard patrol boats are deployed to discourage boaters from entering the splashdown zones.
And that's right. Like, we really want to stress to the public the need to respect this safety zone. Recovering a spacecraft from the water is a hazardous operation, as you can imagine. And any other boats interfering in the area not only increases the risk to the astronauts in the spacecraft, as well as the teams working to recover them from the water, but also to those themselves who would be going out to see it. So for the safety of the crew, as well as your own safety, we recommend you sit back from home, watch and follow along the action from your TV, as the teams who have trained extensively do this.
For final entry briefing, report when ready to copy.
Dragon's ready to copy.
Dragon, I have no deltas to the previously briefed times. The vehicle is healthy, weather is still looking good, and recovery forces are on site. Predicted COM blackout starting at 0918 Zulu and ending at 0925 Zulu. How copy?
No deltas to the timeline. Everything's healthy and weather looks good. 0918 to 0925 for the COM blackout.
That's a good readback, Dragon. And with that, I'll be looking for you to verify that tablets are secure, visors are down, and restraints are tightened no later than 150 kilometers.
Dragon copy. Welcome.
And we just had some great comms between the core and the crew. It sounds like
there is essentially the communication between Peggy Whitson, the commander of the mission who's on board the Dragon capsule, and Houston. And what's been confirmed there is all systems are go. The weather's perfect. The tide is perfect. The area has been cleared off. They say recovery boats are on site. But also the communication coming in that there'll be a comms blackout. What that means is essentially when re-entry happens, there's a complete blackout of communication. So there'll be no way that Houston will be able to speak with those on board the Dragon capsule for a few moments. And that is essentially a given. It's understood that during the re-entry phase, that communication will not be possible. So there will be a blackout. It's planned, which is why the communication was also given to the mission commander, Peggy Whitson, who's done this several times. She's a veteran of sorts, has done many, many space missions, so she knows exactly how it goes down. But that is the communication that you just heard there, that the comms blackout will happen, as they said, at 9:30. So essentially expect that in the next few minutes you're going to see the re-entry happening. That's the most challenging part, Suvesha, for the crew on board, for Group Captain Shukla and all of the others, because it's going to be literally dropping down. So they'll be feeling a whole amount of emotions, a lot of movement, which is why there was also a check from Houston about whether all of the crew is strapped in perfectly. It's a very small capsule, very little space, but these astronauts are trained exactly for this. Any of us seated there will perhaps pass out, will become unconscious because of the sheer speed with which you're dropping. These are trained astronauts, including Group Captain Shukla. This is the most challenging part that we're going to witness now. of it re-entering orbit. Like I said, it's pitch dark there, so unfortunately you're not going to get the best view per se. But the good news is that the communication is coming from Houston that everything is clear to go. The weather's perfect, tide is low, so you're going to see a very smooth landing. The splashdown as planned, Suesha. That is the update we can give our viewers. 18 minutes to go.
Akshita, also a lot of viewers want to know what happens after that, because they will go through a rehabilitation program, if I'm not mistaken. That will be for 7 days, and also for them to accustom themselves to Earth's gravity again is going to be a task.
It's very, very difficult. What you're going to see, and it'll be something difficult really to imagine and visualize, because we're seeing Group Captain Shukla floating around, and as you see those images on your screens, taking part in all of those training schedules. He is essentially the pilot, right? So we used to see a certain image of him. What you're going to see post splashdown is completely different, because once the splashdown occurs, it's going to take about 30 minutes to secure the entire capsule to ensure everything is safe, and only then will you see the capsule being opened. Once it's opened, the crew will be brought out, and how will they be brought out? They'll be brought out on stretchers. They won't be able to move simply because of the difference in how they were at the International Space Station, floating around essentially, to now getting used to gravity, which is why the rehabilitation program is so crucial. But even getting out of the capsule, they won't be able to stand up. They're strapped onto their seats. They will literally be carried out, put on stretchers, and then taken out. And that's because it takes time for them to get feeling in their hands and their legs. But let's cut across live once again to what's happening. As you hear, in fact, a brief coming in live from Axiom and SpaceX.
And even included an underwater helicopter escape training simulation.
And SpaceX Dragon crew has tablets secured, restraints tightened, and visors down.
SpaceX copies. Crew are configured for entry. 5 minutes until predicted comm blackout. We'll see you on the other side at 0925 Zulu.
Copy 09250 on the other side of the blackout.
Okay, and good comms there from crew that they are ready and configured for their return time. And, an aspect of that is to wrap up our discussion about training. That's a major training point for crew, understanding how their return phase is going to look so that they know, let's go ahead and call ground and let them know that we're ready for maintaining it. So training really is at the heart of any successful mission. You plan, you train, you fly in that order.
Yeah, exactly. Training prepares every astronaut, even those very experienced like Peggy Whitson, and she also did retraining with the AX4 crew. It's important for the crew to train together. But this prepares them for any phase, any potential scenario in their mission.
Exactly right. And missions like this are important milestones for everyone involved, from the crew members who fly to those that they represent, to the host of scientists and engineers around the world who have an opportunity for their research or their technology to be tested in microgravity. Everyone learns from these missions. And for Axiom Space, this is at the heart of why we do these missions. We're building opportunities for others to advance what is possible and expand what is known. And we want to enable every human everywhere to take part in this. Now, after a beautiful launch on June 25th, the AX4 crew docked with the International Space Station a little over a day later, opening the hatch and greeting the Expedition 73 crew on June 26th. The crew shared some good words in a welcoming ceremony and an astronaut pinning that we don't have there, but did happen, before quickly getting to work on their extensive itinerary. Now, each crew member brought with them a host of research, technology demonstrations, and outreach objectives, ranging from human physiology to space radiation impact studies, and even some gardening while they were up there. So this crew maintained a very full timeline, but they prepared for this, part of their training. Each crew member wanted to ensure that every minute of this mission was utilized and that all of their objectives were hit. So Peggy, Shooks, Suave, and Tibor were ready to work with their time on board. Over the course of 18 days on board the station, they accomplished over 60 research activities, as well as more than 20 outreach events. But as their time on station came to a close, the AX4 crew participated in a brief farewell ceremony where they said their goodbyes to the Expedition 73 crew. And now for more details on the incredible work performed by this crew on orbit, check out axiomspace.com to see more.
Yeah, I love that this crew did so much outreach. 20 events in 18 days is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty
very
impressive.
impressed. Plus the 60 experiments on top of that. So
I mean, and as we discussed earlier, it was a huge priority for them to be able to conduct those outreach events for the people of their countries who may not have had a chance to talk to an astronaut to understand why are we going to space. Now they have a better understanding of that, and like you mentioned earlier, it's get them started young. Let them understand the passion of it. I know that my nieces, my nephew, right? They're excited about space.
Yeah.
They want to be involved in space too. So I can only imagine getting a call from Tibor, getting a call from Suave, and understanding what are we doing up there.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Now we are expecting that blackout period coming up here in just about a couple of minutes. Now this blackout period. This is when the Dragon spacecraft re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. What's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of plasma buildup as it's getting more through the atmosphere. And that plasma is getting to about 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, building up around the spacecraft. So we will be losing comms. This is expected. Today we're expecting it to last about 6 to 7 minutes, and then we'll regain comms. And you'll probably hear the core after the expected blackout period time has ended. Make some comms, some calls to the crew until they regain the comms and get confirmation from the crew that they can communicate with each other.
That's exactly right. You bring up a good point. An expected loss of comm, or sometimes you'll hear loss of signal, or LOS. It's an expected part of spaceflight. It is planned for. They are predictable, and mission operators or flight controllers work through that to understand when are we going to be able to have and maintain communications with the vehicle, communications with crew, and that can happen at any time during the spaceflight. So for this 5 minutes, right, based on the physics you discussed of the vehicle heating up, it's going to happen, and ground crews can predict for that and work around it. But it's a good reminder that we're waiting for those verbal cues, not just visual cues that we'll get. So we've been able to see some visual cues today of crew in their suits, but also be looking for visual cues later, right? Good parachute deploy. We're also listening though for good verbal cues. So we heard a minute ago, Commander Peggy Whitson was calling down saying that crew is in a good configuration for us to go into this period of no comms.
Yeah, and we do expect that blackout period has probably begun at this point.
That's
and
right.
Speaking of visual cues, I've had the opportunity to talk to some of the astronauts that have flown on our Dragon spacecraft, and they've said it's kind of one of the most spectacular sights they've seen.
Really?
With different, they said it looks like sparks outside of the window, but with multiple different colors, multiple different looks of what that plasma heating up around the vehicle looks like. So they should be experiencing that right now. The AX-4 crew still inside of the Dragon spacecraft. Again, this blackout period will last approximately 6 to 7 minutes. And again, we won't hear any comms throughout this period until the expected blackout time is complete, and then we'll start hearing comms from the core calling out to the crew.
That's right.
As we begin the second half of entry, Dragon is now beginning to flush nitrox into the cabin and continuing to top off the AX-4 crew's suits with cool air. Again, this is what will allow the cabin temperature to remain comfortable while, as I mentioned, the external temperatures reach 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat shield is pointing forward, leading the spacecraft to the landing site. Dragon's primary heat shield is comprised of PICA 3.0, which stands for Phenolic Impregnated Carbon Ablator. First generation PICA was first developed by NASA for studying and sampling comets within our solar system. SpaceX then partnered with NASA to develop PICA X, which was the second generation product used on all Dragon 1 commercial resupply missions that successfully resupplied the space station on 20 missions. PICA 3.0 was developed specifically for use on Dragon as we prepared to begin flying crew with enhanced structural and thermal properties that optimized the heat shield and drove down cost and mass. The remainder of the Crew Dragon spacecraft is composed primarily of a SpaceX proprietary ablative material. It's another class of thermal protection which is lighter weight versus PICA and protects the underlying composite structure during re-entry to ensure the structural capabilities are maintained. Now, while Dragon will experience temperatures well over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit during peak re-entry conditions, the characteristics of the TPS or thermal protection systems coupled with the egress environmental control and life support system in the pressurized interior will ensure that the AX-4 crew will stay cool and comfortable during all the phases of re-entry through splashdown with all that heat surrounding them.
Exactly right. Well, now, as AX-4 set a new benchmark for private astronaut missions with the most research activities executed aboard an Axiom space mission to the International Space Station to date. With over 60 experiments representing 31 countries, the mission showcased the growing global interest in leveraging low Earth orbit for scientific discovery. The research portfolio included 8 technology demonstrations, 12 life science investigations, and 27 research projects. And this research spanned a wide range of disciplines, from cancer biology to regenerative medicine to even artificial intelligence, agriculture, and materials science. And this further demonstrates how low Earth orbit is a platform for innovation. Now, many of these studies were designed to address challenges both in space and on Earth, such as improving disease modeling, enhancing food security, and developing smarter autonomous systems. Now, the scale and diversity of the AX-4 research portfolio reflect a shift toward more collaborative science on orbit together, positioning commercial astronaut missions as catalysts for advancing knowledge and solving real-world problems. You know, Jesse, I think this is one of the most important things about a mission like this, is it allows us an opportunity to understand we have a number of problems that we're trying to address on Earth, and it is a unique opportunity to be able to go to low Earth orbit and understand some of the key aspects of that kind of research. And missions like AX-4 really allow for those kind of problems to continue to have momentum behind them to be solved. The International Space Station has been tackling so many of these problems for over 2 decades now.
Yeah.
And that research needs to continue. It needs to keep going.
I think a lot of people don't realize that some of the stuff that we have that seem very simple and common to us here on Earth actually sometimes come from the research that happens in space.
Exactly right. Exactly right. One of the things we were talking about earlier is a major aspect of long-duration spaceflight is the radiation impacts. And I know for me personally, I thought one of the really interesting research topics or research experiments that was being conducted on orbit for AX-4 was looking at what are the different materials and properties that we can use to protect against space radiation. So during the mission, we had a great call between Peggy, Suave, and Dr. Lucy Lowe with Axiom Space to discuss exactly what it is that we're trying to protect for and understand why space radiation is so difficult to wrap. So, you know, missions like AX-4, they're all important. And we are now seeing great confirmations of the Dragon spacecraft making its return back to Earth right now.
And while we are in a blackout period, this is an excellent view, seeing Dragon from the ground as it's re-entering back into Earth's atmosphere. Now, that blackout period is expected to conclude at 2:25 a.m. Pacific time, so just a couple more minutes here, and then hopefully we'll get some comms back between the core and the crew. But in the meantime, at least got some cool views of the crew almost back down here on Earth.
Exactly right. And you know, making that kind of visual confirmation is such an important part of what we're tracking today. We're tracking a lot of very dynamic operations. And so being able to see what we see on the screen there is incredibly important for mission controllers.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
Again, we may not hear the crew until they do get those comms back, that acquisition of signal.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX Dragon, we have you loud and clear.
Dragon, we have you the same. Expect automated chute deployment.
Dragon copies, automated chute deploy.
And great news, as you heard there, we got comms from the X4 crew.
That's exactly what we're waiting for, and I love that you can hear the excitement in Peggy's voice, too. It's like she's done this before.
Maybe a few times. A great live view on your screen inside of Dragon as they are re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. And we did hear confirmation that there will be the automatic drogue and parachute deployment coming up here shortly.
And on your screen with that great live view.
GPS converge. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Copy. Nominal GPS chute deploy.
And we're going to hear a lot of comms back and forth throughout these last 5 minutes here as the Corps will be calling out their altitude as they're making their way down, as well as when the drogue parachutes deploy and the main parachutes deploy. And then as they get closer and closer to Earth, just keeping the crew updated with how close they are before splashdown so that they can expect that splashdown.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And those are the things that crew that you're seeing there on the left side of your screen are following along with their onboard telemetry. And for you at home as well, you can see on your screens as well, things like vehicle speed, vehicle altitude. All those are really important metrics that we're trying to understand as part of the visual confirmations, the audio communications or the verbal communications that we've gotten with crew. We're also getting vehicle communications and telemetry to all understand how we're looking as we lead up to these next 4 minutes before.
And there you can see on your screen, the seats are rotating for the crew. This prepares them for that splashdown. So they do
brace for drogue window.
They do reorient the crew depending on the dynamic events that are happening. So the crew does lean back during re-entry.
Crew is braced.
And then they are sitting up a little bit more upright for those drogue and main parachutes to deploy.
That's right. Having them in that position helps distribute the forces correctly so that when they're experiencing that dynamic event, they're as comfortable as they can possibly be.
Yeah. We're now waiting for confirmation that the Dragon's chutes have deployed, coming up here just in under a minute or so. Just prior to the deployment of the initial drogue chutes, Dragon automatically safes the propulsion system. Dragon then deploys its drogue parachutes to stabilize and decelerate the vehicle. Then just before drogue deployment, seats automatically rotate to 26 degrees, which we just saw there, to keep the crew within acceptable G limits for entry and landing. And
excellent view.
Great view. Drogue parachutes are deployed. View looking forward.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
Descent rate nominal. Copy.
Again, we're going to hear a lot of comms throughout this next 3 minutes here. This is looking forward on the Dragon spacecraft up at the chutes. Those drogue parachutes are fully deployed now, so we do expect those main parachutes to deploy here shortly.
If you're just joining us, we have now confirmed that the AX-4 crew on their return home is roughly 2.5 minutes out from splashdown, and our main chutes have deployed.
Main chute descent rate nominal.
Copy. Main chute descent rate nominal, 1,000 meters for Dragon.
We copy 1,000 meters.
Great visual confirmation as well as those comms that the 4 main parachutes have deployed. Again, we are going to be slowing down the vehicle from 350 miles per hour all the way down to just about 15, 16 miles per hour by the time that the vehicle touches down and splashes down into the ocean.
Exactly right. You know, you mentioned these beautiful visual confirmations that we're getting. You know, an important aspect of today's specific splashdown is that it's occurring at night.
SpaceX Dragon 800.
Copy 800 meters.
Commander Peggy Whitson confirming the spacecraft's altitude as it's making its descent into the Pacific Ocean just off the coast of San Diego in Southern California.
Yes, love that it's coming off the coast of my hometown.
600 meters.
600 meters.
And at 600 meters, we're just under a minute before that expected splashdown. The landing in water is a lot simpler and more reliable. Provides a little bit of margin against unlikely parachute issues. We did have to learn how to make Dragon waterproof as we are splashing down into the ocean. But
SpaceX copies 400 meters. Reminder to brace for splashdown.
That's a pretty cool view.
Yeah. That's right. Maintaining the vehicle's signature through things like cloud layer and any kind of atmospheric disturbance allows us to maintain visual contact with the vehicle as it's making its final descent towards water landing.
And it's a little foggy, as you can see there.
Yeah, Pacific fog is rolling in.
We've got some very bright lights as Dragon, you can see the ocean there. Dragon is about to touch down in just a few seconds here.
And working their way towards the vehicle are the SpaceX and Axiom support teams that will be present for the next phase of our splashdown coverage today. At this point, we'll be waiting for confirmation of the crew's safe landing, and then we'll move into the phases of this mission, which are really, let's recover the vehicle, let's recover the crew, let's make our assessments, and at that point, we'll be covering.
And we have splashdown of the AX-4 crew back on planet Earth.
Welcome home.
SpaceX Dragon Splashdown. We are in Stable 1.
SpaceX copies Splashdown in Stable 1. On behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
And thanks for the great ride and the safe trip, and Grace is happy to be back.
Welcome back home, Group Captain Shukla. He's back on planet Earth with a picture-perfect splashdown. Not much to see because it's pitch dark, but you can see the beauty of what really SpaceX, Axiom and NASA has achieved here. The splashdown happening just as planned. Every second that was planned to the T, that's exactly how it happened. What beautiful images there on the right of your screens. Group Captain Shukla's family, his parents, extremely emotional, understandably so. You can see his mother also in tears. Her son is back home. Her son is safe. Obviously, it's very challenging. It's for the first time, I'm sure, that they've been witnessing these kind of scenes, so unsure of what to expect. But rest assured, all well, the splashdown has occurred. It's going to take about 30 minutes now for us to get our first glimpse of Group Captain Shuks, as he's very fondly called by the Axiom crew. You can see on the left of your screens the boats headed right now, speedboats with the crew on board to help with the removal of the astronauts from the Dragon capsule. All of them on board those boats, headed right now towards the capsule. On the right, we're getting you those live images from Lucknow. Very, very emotional parents, and I can say this with certainty, a very emotional nation right now watching these images as the splashdown has occurred. Suesha, what a beautiful moment we've just witnessed. Second Indian ever in space. He's back home safe, and we can't wait to hear about his experience.
Oh yes, absolutely, Akshita. And we must also talk about how this mission has been successful. So 14 days is what these astronauts were to spend at the ISS. It extended to 18 days, 60 experiments. That was the initial aim, but much beyond that they have achieved as a part of this mission and successfully come down to take all of this further into future missions.
Very true. This is going to hugely help India's space journey as well. So for anyone who's critical, saying why spend so much money, why spend 500 crores to book a seat on board the space mission, I think the pictures speak for themselves of what really India has also achieved by being a part of this kind of a space mission. That image there on the left of your screens, I know it's pitch dark, which is why we didn't see really the beauty of that capsule touching down on the ocean, splashing down, but the green light that you see constantly blinking, that was the capsule. Right above it, you see a glimpse of the parachute. There were 4 of them, including the drogue, which is essentially the main parachute, and it landed just perfectly the exact spot there where, in fact, the splashdown happens. That too is perfectly planned. That's Shukla's parents there. At this point, I can understand why they're extremely emotional, not willing to really speak or interact with the media. They want to soak in this moment, see this moment. Let's play out for you the reaction there. Well, understandably so. This is such a proud moment for the family, and at the same time a moment of, I'm sure, quite a bit of anxiety. So they'll be heaving a sigh of relief that their son is back home, waiting, I'm sure, to see him. Unfortunately for them too, it's going to be a long wait, because the next 7 days, Group Captain Shukla, along with the rest of the crew, Peggy Whitson, Wazanowski and Tibor Kapu, they're all going to be in a rehabilitation program, kind of getting used to what it's like to be on planet Earth, getting used. Beautiful image there, which gives you a sense of how far the boats are from the capsule. You can see the capsule in white, which we've seen before as well. Right now, Suesha, it'll be completely burnt out from the outside. The capsule itself can't be reused. You can see in the brief moments that the light is being flashed upon the capsule, that is completely burnt. And that's because, upon re-entry, the heat, the blazing heat and the sheer speed, imagine the speed at which they were traveling through and entering Earth's atmosphere is about 500 kilometers per hour. So at that speed, when you're coming through, the friction, the heat is extreme. In the capsule, however, there are steps taken to keep it cool for the crew, including the fact that their suits will immediately start pushing out cool air into their bodies to keep them comfortable through that journey. But, just as the live stream was happening when we were listening to what SpaceX and also Axiom was telling us, it was very interesting to hear how they were talking to us about these astronauts being trained for that exact moment when the parachutes deploy. They lean back further at that point to ensure that, they are in that perfect position. All right, image is also coming in, Suesha, from Lucknow.
Cake cutting, yes, absolutely, Akshita. And what a moment it is for the parents, for everyone who has ever known Shubhanshu Shukla, because it is not just about them, it is about the entire nation celebrating his safe return. How uncertain such missions can be. We've seen what had happened during Sunita Williams when she was on board. And of course, that splashdown moment that I vividly remember, because, it was daytime and the pictures were very clear. Hopefully, if, something like that would have happened this time around, we would have been able to see it much better. Having said that, the excitement, the exhilaration that we feel that the astronauts are back, Shubhanshu Shukla is back, he is safe, and the cake cutting ceremony that is underway. His family is celebrating. This is at his school, I believe, where he has studied, and they're cutting the cake, celebrating his return.
Yeah, let's dip into Samarth Srivastava. He's live there. He's speaking to Group Captain Shukla's family. Listen in.
होती है, ये पहली सीढ़ी थी जो बड़ी सीढ़ी होती है. कहीं लैंडिंग चल रही थी, डर था, क्योंकि बहुत डर था बिकॉज जिस तरीके से जो एक्सियम फर्स्ट के पहले जो एस्ट्रोनॉट थे उन्होंने बताया था कि टेम्परेचर जो 1600 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड तक चला जाता है, बट इट इज ट्राइड एंड टेस्टेड. बट फिर भी एक रहता है ना, आप ऐसी जगह में बैठे हो जहां का टेम्परेचर 1600 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड जा रहा है, एंड इट कुड हैपन एनी टाइम. आपका 2003 का जो कल्पना चावला वाला हुआ था, हालांकि वो दूसरा स्काईलाइनर का जो भी था उनका, इट इज 100% गुड रेट.
Do some final safety checks.
Focus on these images. We'll get to those voices, but let's focus on these images right now. The boats have now reached the capsule. You can see that in the light that's been flashed upon the capsule. What you'll see now is a series of steps, processes to follow anytime these kind of splashdowns occur. So from a distance, you can see them using a rod to kind of latch on to ensure that the rescue boat is latched on to the capsule. Then you will see one of these personnel outside the capsule doing all necessary checks, checking the hatches, seeing if everything's closed perfectly, because that cabin also, it's very controlled temperature. So they want to ensure it's opened perfectly. So expect it to take another 20 minutes at least for all of those checks to be completed. But it looks like you're going to see the other boat also approach closer to the capsule. But like I said, I think what you can also witness there, right now it's pitch dark, but the moment they flash those lights in the Dragon capsule, you get a sense of how challenging that journey really is to return back to planet Earth. I dare say it's more challenging than actually liftoff because of the speed with which you're kind of just dropping down back into Earth's atmosphere. And all of the senses returning, gravity is back, you're strapped in, there's no place to go, there's a comms blackout. So it takes a lot mentally and physically for these astronauts as well. But the capsule is there. It's called the Grace capsule. This capsule is named as Grace, and you can see it floating along there. For the astronauts inside, I'm sure they're extremely impatient. Group Captain Shukla and everyone else extremely impatient to step out. It's going to take a bit of time. They know full well the process involved. They know that all necessary checks have to be done before that latch that you can see there with the light flashing on it, before that is opened.
सबको धन्यवाद है बहुत खुश हैं पूरा परिवार बहुत बड़ा मिशन करके आया करो करो आप करो ना आप जाओ इधर इधर We still have something to watch. आप सब लोगों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद and we are so happy. We have next step right now. Please watch that immediately. It's important one. Very important. He's coming out of the cupola. That coupon. Please watch that.
So the family there trying to watch the live updates because they know that the next few steps are crucial. They want that glimpse of Group Captain Shukla the moment he's out of the capsule. You're not going to be seeing him being pulled out of the capsule right now and taken on a boat. No. What actually happens is once these checks are done, and if I'm not wrong, I can't really see, but part of the process is that there's actually a person who's on top of the capsule, who gets on top, climbs right on top there, and then kind of latches a rope across. Then you will see the Dragon capsule being dragged. Yeah, I think the personnel are on board right now. They're kind of latching onto the capsule. And so you'll see the capsule being dragged away from the sea by the boat and then brought on board. And then everyone will be allowed to evacuate from the capsule. Right now, they will not be taken out. The latch will not be opened till they're moved from the water. So these boats are only doing the necessary checks right now. You can see one of the personnel with a flashlight right on top. What he or she will be doing. I remember for Sunita Williams, it was a woman, and we were all amazed by those images of her just walking all over that capsule for about 30 minutes. But she'll be very carefully treading on top and going across, surrounding it, putting a lasso of sorts, if you will, around the capsule.
The thrusters that did not fire to make sure that
in fact, Akshata, Nagarjun Dwarkanath has spoken to the ISRO chief. Let's play that interview.
Now we have seen Shubhanshu Shukla landing back in Pacific Ocean, coming back to the Earth. What do you feel? So, what is the message from ISRO, sir?
Message from ISRO is very simple message. See, it is a big program for sending our own brothers or sisters to space and bringing them back safely using our own rocket.
Yes, sir.
Lot of developments are involved. Human-rated vehicle, crew escape system, environmental control and safety system, parachute system, and along with that, human-centric products and human training. Lot of activities are involved. This program will feed for our Gaganyaan program.
Okay.
Basically, it is the vision of our Prime Minister.
Yes.
2023, he only suggested why don't we send one of our Gaganyaan 3s to ISS. So that will gain some confidence, some knowledge.
Yes, confidence. Sir.
So it is in that direction. This will be really helping our program.
So
this data will feed to our Gaganyaan program.
Over 2 weeks, Mr. Shukla was in the space in ISS. What are the data that you're looking at? What is his experience that you're looking at that ISRO can take in for Gaganyaan, sir?
Say, one is his knowledge and his interaction with other people. Another one is we have planned some experiment. Experiments are done. Lot of things are done in the ground.
Correct, sir.
And some work he has also done there. Now the seeds, everything will come back. Our people have to continue the experiment. So it is the experiment not only done in the space. It is the total experiment which has to be done. A portion is done in the flight.
Right.
In the space. So everything, basically it will feed to our Gaganyaan program. Their training will feed to us.
So
the two people are trained, Prashant Nair and he, 10 months they were getting trained. So that will help us. And they have got exposure to the International Space Station. They have worked with
All right, so that is the ISRO chief sharing his words on not just the safe return of Shubhanshu Shukla, Akshata, but also how ISRO has really been looking forward to all that comes after this, the various experiments, the research, and how that gets carried forward into our future missions. The ambitions are big. when it comes to where India wants to be in the elite space club. And the Gaganyaan mission, of course, that all this research will hugely help with. But Akshita, I throw it back at you because please explain to us these particular pictures.
अच्छा लग रहा है, खराब क्या लगने वाली चीज़ है, तो मिशन पूरा होके बेटा लौटा करके तो अच्छा लग रहा है।
बहुत देखा आप हाथ जोड़े थी और कुछ जाप कर रही थी जिस वक्त वो प्रोसीजर चल रहा था।
भगवान से मन ही मन प्रार्थना कर रहे थे कि सुरक्षित लैंडिंग हो जाए, सुरक्षित लैंडिंग हो।
आपके आंखों में आंसू भी थे, एक माँ हैं क्योंकि आपने पूरा बच्चे को बड़ा किया है, आपके सामने खेले हैं, आपके सामने पढ़ाई की है, अभी भी मैं देख रहा हूँ आप स्क्रीन की तरफ देख रही हैं। आप मुझे ये बताइए कि किस तरीके से ये कितना इमोशनल क्षण है?
नहीं, ये आप लोग भी देखो कितनी स्पेशल चीज है।
हाँ, बहुत स्पेशल चीज है हम लोग के लिए भी, हम लोग के भी रोंगटे खड़े हो जिस वक्त हम रिपोर्ट कर रहे थे। आप ही बताइए कि कितनी बड़ी प्रेरणा शुभांशु बन गए हैं।
प्रेरणा तो बन ही गए सबके, पूरे संसार के लिए, दुनिया के लिए, भारत के लिए, सबके लिए।
डर था हल्का सा भी?
नहीं, अब कोई डर नहीं है।
जिस वक्त लैंडिंग हो रही थी
खत्म, सारे डर खत्म हो गए, सब खत्म
हो गया। तो माँ के चेहरे पर आप खुशी देखिए कि किस तरीके की खुशी माँ के चेहरे पर है, और वो अभी अभी झांक कर वो स्क्रीन की तरफ देख रही हैं, वो कोई क्षण मिस नहीं करना चाहती हैं, जैसा कि उन्होंने बताया।
So that's Group Captain Shukla's mother there saying, why don't you all watch the screen? Stop talking to me. I can understand your emotions. She wants to watch that moment her son comes out of the capsule. This is what I was referring to earlier, that you'll have a personnel, someone who's also a diver, by the way, getting on board the Dragon capsule. You can see essentially that all the necessary harnesses are being attached to the capsule, and then the speedboat will move with the capsule. It'll be then docked onto a platform on a boat, and that's when the crew will be coming out. So it could take another 20 plus minutes at least. It depends on really how long this entire process now goes on for. It's about 2:30 in the morning there, Suesha. So while we're all hoping that, you know, daybreak happens and we'll be able to see that moment of Group Captain Shukla emerging, it's going to be dark throughout, unfortunately. But so we'll have to make do with these images that we're seeing, because it just about gives you a glimpse of what it takes to ensure a successful splashdown and what happens post the splashdown as well, which is also extremely intricate ops. As you can see there in the water, there are personnel on board this burnt-looking capsule because of the process of re-entry itself being so complicated. And so you've got personnel there on board kind of latching on all of the harnesses. Then the capsule will be dragged. You see the crew inside will still be strapped in. They'll be dragged right onto another boat, and that's when the latch will finally be opened. Not before that. And then, like I said, Suesha, you're going to see, you know, there's no triumphant moment of the astronauts walking out, waving, none of that. They're going to be literally carried out of the capsule, put onto a stretcher, and then pulled out. So that will be the moment to watch out for in another 20 minutes from now. I saw the Group Captain Shukla's parents also. I'm sure they've fully rehearsed with the exact protocol that will be followed with the process. So they'll be waiting for that moment. That big ship, sort of ship that you see there, for lack of a better word, but one with the spotlight, that's where the capsule will be dragged on. And right at the back there with all of the personnel, the capsule will be kept there before it's actually opened up, Suesha. So that's the boat they're waiting to welcome the capsule in. That spot, you see a slightly elevated portion there. That's where the capsule will be placed. It's harnessed in, so they're essentially just dragging it onto the boat now.
Oh yes, absolutely. And that's the thing about missions like these. No matter how rehearsed are you, you never know about the uncertainties that lie ahead of you. And this is the very reason why that anxiety is there. The family is certainly feeling it, and it is a huge moment for reasons so obvious that the mother and his family out of words as they want to see a glimpse of their son, to see that he's safe, he's sound, he's back after these 18 days. And of course, he is the hero of the nation. But
there's just also a message that's come in from Prime Minister Modi. He's put out a post on social media echoing the sentiment of every single Indian right now. I'll just read it out quickly for our viewers. The Prime Minister saying, and I quote, "I join the nation in welcoming Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla as he returns to Earth from his historic mission mission to space. As India's first astronaut to have visited the International Space Station, he's inspired a billion dreams through his dedication, courage and pioneering spirit. It marks another milestone towards our own human spaceflight mission, Gaganyaan. And so, like I said, the Prime Minister summing it up perfectly of what every Indian is going through right now, saying that Group Captain Shukla has inspired a billion dreams through his dedication, courage and pioneering spirit. And very importantly, Prime Minister Modi also saying that this takes us closer towards our own mission, towards mission Gaganyaan. Remember, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla is a Gaganyatri himself. He was chosen for that mission, and then to ensure that we have that knowledge and we have an astronaut on board who's already been to space, he is sent for this particular mission. And the knowledge that he is bringing on board now, invaluable. The experiments that he's conducted for ISRO, invaluable. And that's what Prime Minister Modi is also referring to with this welcome back home message. We can't wait for him to come back to India. That'll be a moment really for all of us to witness. We can't wait for him to tell us about his experience in space as well.
Oh yes, and the messages that he's put out while he was in space of how he sees India, even this time around when he described the experience as magical. Shubhanshu Shukla said that India is ambitious, India is fearless, India is raring to go, and there's nothing that we can't achieve. So, you know, Akshita, while we stand at this stage, there is so much more that awaits us in terms of the space missions that we are attempting to conquer. And of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has always put forth the government's vision when it comes to the support that is extended to ISRO and our astronauts to be able to take such experiments forward. In fact, Akshita, even if you and I recall that interaction that had happened between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Shubhanshu Shukla while he was in space. And of course, he wished him all the very best. He shared a few tips, but also those lighter moments of when he mentioned that Shubhanshu Shukla had taken gajar ka halwa to the ISS, and the big party also that they had, those pictures that we'd put out. So, like I said, Akshita, this is a big moment. We're all witnessing it, and so much more that we're waiting to observe to what is going to happen when it comes to India's big leap in science and space.
That's true. I remember one of the viral images is what you're talking about, Swesha, when Gajar Halwa was actually served to all of the astronauts on board. So I can't wait to hear whether they loved it as much as Group Captain Shukla does, because his family told us it's one of his favorite dishes. So rather fitting that he took that essentially to represent what Indian food and Indian cuisine is all about. But just to focus again on the images that we're getting right now, part of the recovery fleet, this is the main SpaceX recovery ship that's usually used in these kind of missions. The crew that you see on board, they've got a whole lot of experience in doing exactly this, in recovering these capsules. You can see one of the personnel on board the capsule also to ensure that nothing goes wrong, to ensure that the harness stays on, even as the capsule is getting closer and closer to the recovery ship right now. It'll be placed right in that circular area that you see. So, you know, you get a sense also of the size of the capsule. I remember when I was in Florida, this launch was happening from launch pad 39A. Obviously, at the Kennedy Space Center, there are multiple such launch pads. I wasn't allowed anywhere close to this launch pad. That's protocol, so we weren't allowed close by. But you just see the sheer size of the rocket, because when you go into the Kennedy Space Center, they actually let you visit other launch pads. So it gives you a sense of the sheer scale of the kind of mission, the equipment that we're talking about. But you look at the capsule itself, where you see the massive rocket standing up, it looks like a massive mammoth piece of equipment. But the capsule itself in which the astronauts are, it's tiny, it's cramped. There's no place at all for 4 astronauts to move. There are seats placed, they're strapped in, they can just about, unstrap themselves, move around a little, float around, if you will, because they're not going to be walking around in there, and then strap themselves back in. So you can see right now, they'll be strapped in, by the way, even through this process, because the capsule is floating because of the built-in buoyancy. SpaceX usually ensures that most of their launches, it's a splashdown that occurs. So because of that, their capsules usually are built to float in water, completely waterproof also. So it's being dragged in right now. The astronauts at this point will just be seated, waiting waiting for the go-ahead, waiting for that latch to open. They have nothing essentially to do at this point. They're strapped in completely. But if you look at the whole process, actually it's largely automated. Even at that moment of a comms blackout, which you'd think would create a whole lot of panic inside the capsule, not really, because not just is there a clear protocol established, but also secondly, they just have to sit back strapped in. There isn't much for them to do. Everything's controlled from base, from Houston. Now, your recovery is on. You can see that the ropes that the personnel were on board tying, latching onto the capsule, that's being used to kind of drag them back in. Using, of course, a pulley, they're being dragged back in. And then the capsule extremely heavy, so there's no question of any of those people being able to lift it. It'll directly be automatically pushed onto the platform. And then the personnel who are standing there will start those last checks. All right, this is why I said that the personnel who are on board the capsule are divers, because when they get close, they just jump off into the ocean and get back into those rescue boats. Amazing to see, really, the kind of training that these personnel go through and what it takes for ensuring that this kind of a mission is successful. So many bits and pieces that bring it together and ensure a successful mission, Suesha. But I think we're just inches away from the capsule now, making it onto the recovery ship.
Oh yes, absolutely, Akshita. And while the weather has been conducive, but one can only imagine the very many challenges on the ground as they recover that capsule and continue to pull it towards themselves, because you know, as lit as it is, but the fact is that it is dark. It is 2:30 in the morning that they are performing this entire recovery, and it of course has its own share of challenges. We saw one of them, yes, a diver who just jumped into the water, and in the middle of Pacific Ocean, where the capsule is now being pulled. And it is being taken in.
Okay, so
what happens next?
You're seeing the capsule being lifted off the water onto the recovery ship. Few more checks and then the latch will be open. But the breaking news that we can confirm for you, and I know you've all been wondering when Group Captain Shukla will be back in India. The confirmation that's coming in right now is that he'll be back in Delhi on August 17th. Contrary to what sources told us earlier, which was that it could be as early as July 25th. But now we're hearing that August 17th is the date that Group Captain Shukla will be back in Delhi. He's going to be meeting with ISRO officials. That crucial debriefing perhaps will be happening then, Suesha.
Oh yes, absolutely. Shubhanshu Shukla, and in this big mission that happens to be a big boost for India's Gaganyaan, and 17th August is when he will be in Delhi.
That's right. So once he comes down to Delhi, you're going to be seeing Group Captain Shukla meeting with ISRO officials, get going on mission Gaganyaan. Let's focus on those images once again. That's coming in right now. Okay, let's cut across to Union Minister Jitendra Singh.
स्थिति पे तो आ ही गया था चंद्रयान के बाद, लेकिन आज हम उस स्थिति में हैं कि हम वो भी चुनौती स्वीकार करने की स्थिति में है, ऐसे प्रयोग करने जो आज तक ना हुए। और ये याद रहे कि जो प्रयोग शुभांशु के द्वारा किए गए वो मानव जीवन के साथ बड़ा नजदीक का संबंध रखते हैं, और उनसे जो परिणाम निकलेंगे वो न केवल भारतवासियों के लिए बल्कि समस्त विश्व के लिए उपयोग में लाए जाएंगे। जैसे प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी कहते हैं कि भारत को अब विश्व बंधु की भूमिका के लिए अपने आप को तैयार करना होगा, सही माने में विश्व बंधु के किरदार में ये प्रयोग किए गए।
गगनयान के लिए कितना उपयोगी होगा सर ये? गगनयान मिशन के लिए कितना उपयोगी?
टेक्निकली जो डॉकिंग अनडॉकिंग और दूसरे प्रयोग हुए वो गगनयान में भी काम आएंगे, चंद्रयान 4 में भी आएंगे, और फिर जब हमारा भारतीय अंतरिक्ष स्टेशन बनेगा लगभग 2035 में, तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो आज प्रक्रियाएं हुई हैं ये इससे उम्दा ढंग से हम करने में
शुभांशु भारत आ सकते हैं।
लगभग 17 अगस्त के लगभग उनका दिल्ली पहुंचने की उम्मीद की जा सकती है।
तो डॉक्टर जितेंद्र सिंह जिन्होंने बताया कि किस तरह की प्रक्रिया जो है वो अब फॉलो की जाएगी।
All right, so Union Minister Jitendra Singh confirming that Shubhanshu Shukla will be in Delhi on the 17th of August, and of course a big ceremony I'm sure will be planned around it, but most importantly he will also meet with ISRO officials. So all of that is to happen in Delhi on the 17th of August, Akshita, like we understand. And again we've cut across to those pictures. What happens next?
They are de-rigging the spacecraft, but they're also doing some final...
What's happening right now is all the harnesses are being removed simultaneously by all of the personnel there. The Dragon capsule is at the location that it's meant to be. You see that particular area there right in front of the personnel. That is the latch. So that will be opened once the go-ahead is given. A few more moments before we actually see that moment. The other aspect of it is that you will see a whole lot of crew members on standby. So even once the latch is opened, they're not immediately going to come out. It will take a few more moments for them actually to be brought out one after another. 4 of them inside. We're talking about Group Captain Shukla, who's of course the pilot, mission commander Peggy Whitson, who is from America, Wisnowski from Poland, and Tibor Kapu from Hungary. They'll all be pulled out one after another. But like I said, even in this case, the astronauts know that they're not allowed to remove the seat belts that they have on. They're strapped on completely to their seats, and they're not allowed to remove that even after the door is open. Only when they're given the go-ahead can they actually remove those straps, and then immediately personnel go into that capsule. You will see essentially trained personnel inside taking them out one after another. So right now all processes being done to open that latch. It's very, very difficult because you see it's sealed essentially, and that's because at re-entry and like I've been highlighting, the temperatures that it reaches up to, the heat and the friction is what you see the impact outside. There are heat shields, of course, around the SpaceX Dragon capsule, but you can see the impact really of the re-entry on the capsule. It's completely burnt out, which is what makes these capsules unreusable. SpaceX believes in maximum reuse of most of its equipment, but a capsule at this point is not reusable just because of the kind of damage that's inflicted upon it once it re-enters into the Earth's atmosphere. That's the most challenging bit, essentially, of the return journey. Now, at this point, while it's for the astronauts just sitting back and waiting, for the ground crew, this is the hardest part, to ensure that all harnesses are removed, to ensure that the opening is done perfectly, picture perfect as the return, as the splashdown has been so far.
Been lifted onto the recovery vessel Shannon. Now the recovery crew is safing the vehicle. They're putting some covers on the thrusters of the vehicle just to ensure, now that the spacecraft is no longer in operation, we don't need those thrusters. They did some sniff checks before they put some covers on it.
SpaceX comm check.
We have you loud and clear in Dragon.
Copy that, Dragon. We have you the same. Welcome aboard the recovery ship. We are working to troubleshoot the forward link transition. Stand by for translation across the deck. I'll let you know when we're ready for that.
Okay, copy.
All right, the crew is preparing for translation. This is where that Dragon nest is going to move the spacecraft towards the deck, and that deck is going to meet the bottom of the Dragon hatch, and that'll enable the crew to egress or exit the Dragon spacecraft onto a platform on the recovery vessel. And again, the recovery crew looks like they may have finished safing the vehicle in preparation for that translation.
As you mentioned, Jesse, that hatch that you see right in the center of the spacecraft, when we see crew egress from that, SpaceX medical personnel will be there to assess crew and assist them along with other ground support crew out of the spacecraft. And at that point, that'll be our first time being able to see the AX-4 crew since their liftoff to the International Space Station on June 25th. On a side note, I do love seeing crew go into and come out of the hatch, whether it's the side hatch or whether it is the docking port. I love seeing the smiles on their faces.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting for them once we open this Dragon side hatch. Again, it'll be the first breath of fresh air in about 20 days for them since they boarded the Falcon 9 on launch day.
And this is an interesting distinction. You launch in the Atlantic and you splash down the Pacific. It's very different breaths of air that you're getting.
And you traveled all over space for thousands of miles.
288 orbits, something like 7.6 million miles. All just to come down across the country.
Millions of miles, I should say. It's definitely a great passport to have.
It is. Maybe that could be the next memento that that we can provide crew before they lift off as a passport that they can see.
I think the locations would be orbits.
That'd be really cool.
Outside of Earth.
Yeah.
Earth orbits, low Earth orbit. Again, next up, we are expecting the translation of the Dragon spacecraft named Grace, named by the Axiom Mission 4 crew. Again, the spacecraft will translate in preparation for hatch opening and exiting of the vehicle.
A few moments ago, Core spoke with the AX4 crew to let them know that this the translation will be happening soon.
Dragon SpaceX, final checks are complete. Translation across the deck to the egress platform will begin shortly. There is a chance that we get a lot of alarms. No concern.
Dragon copies.
And we have movement. Translation is beginning. Some residual ocean water splashing down. And then we are washing down the hatch area. Again, just preparing for the vehicle's side hatch to be opened. Getting some of that salt water off, maybe some of that plasma from reentry off.
Right, all nominal processes to ensure that that crew can safely egress the vehicle, but also that ground personnel are safely protected while handling the spacecraft and crew as well. So at this point, we can see SpaceX personnel positioning themselves to support in this, as well as the spacecraft making final approaches to that upper landing pad for crew to egress the vehicle. And after that freshwater wash down of the hatch area, we're seeing some final wipe downs as well. For those with a keen eye as well, you can see on the side of Grace, as it was making its approach towards the upper landing, the Axiom logo proudly displayed on the spacecraft. We had some great shots during the docking footage of SpaceX, Axiom, making a beautiful image of the vehicle docked to the International Space Station. It's a little worn.
A little toasty.
A little toasty.
A little toasty.
All part of nominal ops, though.
3,500 degrees Fahrenheit
That'll
will do that.
Dragon SpaceX, standby for side hatch opening and egress of some smiling faces.
Here we go.
All right, we're looking forward to it.
They are just about to open that side hatch. And again, first person that'll greet the crew will be the medical officer.
The hatch is open, and ground crews are making first contact with the Axiom 4 crew.
And you see that square looking tool, that's just a protector for the hatch seal for while the crew egresses. This is a reusable vehicle, so we are protecting both the crew as well as the spacecraft, making sure there's no damage that happens and that the crew doesn't bump their head on anything on the spacecraft.
Now, any moment now, by the way, you're going to be seeing Group Captain Shukla emerging from that capsule. We're not sure of the order in which the astronauts will be emerging. I'm guessing it's based on seating, who's the closest to really the capsule, but there's protocol to that too. The only person who's gone in, the photographer getting a chance to get in and take one last photograph of the astronauts inside the capsule, but the only person who was allowed inside was a medical officer so far. A couple of photographers being allowed to get one last glimpse of the AX4 crew in the Dragon capsule, and I'm sure they'll want to remember that moment too. That's the medical officer there. A couple of them entering, but you will see one after another now the astronauts emerging outside. We can't wait to catch a glimpse of Group Captain Shukla. It's been a tough journey. It's been a hard journey. I'm sure 22 hours to come back home, to return to planet Earth. I'm sure they're relieved, but also excited to be back. It's going to be, again, a rehabilitation of about 7 days. So that will be another crucial point in the recovery itself. So it doesn't end here. They're emerging out, and then they'll be taken directly to the rehabilitation program. But you can see all of the personnel now on standby, waiting for the astronauts and getting set to ensure that they are brought out from that capsule safely. A hatch, which is opened, yes, but they've also put a cover around the hatch to ensure that there's no scope for any injuries. But it looks like some parts being removed from the capsule just before the astronauts make their way out. Ready, so we can assure you that we will be able to get you all those live updates and live videos from the moment that all of the astronauts step out, which is reassuring for us to see so far away that the cameras are right to the location there to get you every one of those updates, and so we can watch what's happening as the astronauts come out, which is moments away from that.
Get out of their seats while they are exiting the vehicle.
Now getting some great internal views of the AX4 crew in their spacecraft.
I already saw some big smiles as people, we've all been saying.
Ladies and gentlemen, Group Captain Shukla, all smiles, Suesha. Great to see. So it looks like he's enjoyed that journey back. I don't know how, but he seems to have enjoyed it. He's all smiles, which means he's doing okay. Good to see. First view there of all of them seated, still strapped on, mind you, because they'll be waiting for the go-ahead for each of them, one after another, to be pulled out. But it also gives you a sense. The first thing that it struck me from that view was look how small and cramped it is. There's no space for anyone to move.
Putting in aspects of I'm not going to call it rigging, but hardware to help the crew get out of the spacecraft more easily. Reminder that they've been in microgravity for a little over 20 days, and occasionally your first few steps back on Earth can be
They're coming out.
Slightly challenging.
It's a little different in microgravity
Yeah.
than dealing with the gravity here on Earth. Just now joining us, we are waiting for the AX-4 crew to exit the Dragon spacecraft Grace. Peggy, Shooks, Suave, and Tibor are at the end of their Axiom Mission 4. After 20 days in space, 18 on board the International Space Station. 18 days.
Now, this wraps up a very significant portion of the mission, but it's not entirely over. We still have a few medical checks to go. And then in addition to that, the AX-4, all the research done on the AX-4 mission is all going to be in a world of post-processing, analysis, assessment, and that's all part of it, as well as crew debriefs. So, following after crew egresses the spacecraft and gets good medical checks, at that point we'll be getting the crew back home and then continuing the final, we'll call it terrestrial-based operations of the
That's
AX-4
right.
mission.
I guess it's more of the end of the space-facing portion of the mission.
Operational phases. Right. We're still going to take our time to get there. You can see ground crews are still working with the crew members and hardware inside. They've established some ground support equipment to help in the aid of the AX-4 crew getting out of the spacecraft.
And some of their aids are not too complex. That white platform that you see there is essentially a slide.
Yeah. But an important one.
A very important slide.
But in addition to that slide, we do have, there's a complex tool that you mentioned earlier, Jesse, about protecting the seals. We can see now crew looking to make, the first crew members looking to make their egress from spacecraft along that slide.
Sliding out.
And there she is. We see Commander Peggy Whitson, all smiles, exiting the spacecraft Grace. That is a beautiful sight. Peggy Whitson, the AX-4 commander, is home, having logged 695 days in space on 5 flights. She is the 7th on the all-time list for most days in space by a human. It's an incredible feat.
Legendary.
Okay, Peggy Whitson, the mission commander, is out, all smiles. Great to see that they're on their feet, of course, with a little bit of assistance, but they're sliding out of the capsule and then being assisted by personnel on ground, all smiles and walking out, which means it's not just been a picture-perfect splashdown from the outside for us, but in the inside too, which is why they're all looking comfortable. They're looking at ease. About 16 days in space. That's a long time of not having any gravity, which is why it's complicated for them to also come out. But you can see the photographer there right in front. In all likelihood, it's going to be Group Captain Shukla next, considering the mission commander is out. If you look at the seating inside the Dragon capsule, the middle 2 seats, it's Peggy Whitson and then Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla. To the 2 extremes are the mission specialists, Wisnowski and Tibor Kapo. So my sense is that if Peggy Whitson has emerged You're going to be seeing Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla next. A fleeting view. You saw with Peggy Whitson, it was just a quick smile, a thumbs up, and then she was moved away from that location. It's going to be similar with Group Captain Shukla as well. Just a moment's glimpse as he emerges from that capsule, and then he'll be carried out.
We are waiting for the remaining 3 crew members of the AX-4 crew. There's no real order to the egress. It's really up to the crew. So we're patiently waiting to see who's up next.
Right. If Peggy is in the indication, which I think she is for this particular crew, we'll see another big smile coming out of the Dragon spacecraft in a moment.
Down the slide again, similar process of coming down the slide, and then will be assisted by the personnel on ground to get up on his feet. Now, safe to say he, because Peggy Whitson has already, there you have it, Group Captain Shukla, all smiles, waving at the people, a little help there for him as he walks out, getting used to gravity. Amazing to see them. Amazing to see him smiling, waving at the cameras. Good to know. I think all of us were a little anxious if he's doing okay. Amazing to see. And look at his parents there. Gives you goosebumps to see them applauding. That's the first time they're seeing him back on Earth. So they'll be relieved to see that moment of him smiling, beautiful. His mother's actually waving at the screens, hoping, I'm sure, that her son can see how proud she is. But he's come out, he's waving, he's doing good, which is great to see. He's now being taken to a point where there will be medical checks that are conducted. Group Captain Shukla with the tricolour, mind you. Not sure if you noticed, we'll play that footage for you again of him coming out, tricolour on his sleeve, which is amazing to see because it again reiterates for us what a moment this is. Let's cut across live.
हाँ, सावन का महीना है, भोलेनाथ जी की कृपा है।
Group Captain Shukla is out of the Dragon capsule. Next, you're going to see Wazanowski as well as Tibor Kapo coming out. Listen in.
से बात हो रही है। अब मंत्री से बात कर लेता है थोड़ा हल्का लगता है।
यही पल तो था जिसके लिए जी रहे थे।
नहीं, बिल्कुल उसका मिशन पूरा हुआ। अब ईश्वर को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और सभी देशवासियों का आभार
साक्षात रूप से मिलने के लिए शुभांशु से।
नहीं, बिल्कुल बहुत अच्छा लगा, बहुत अच्छा।
मिलना कब होगा?
अब मिलना 15 दिन लग जाएंगे।
काफी उनका इंतजार है, किस तरीके से स्वागत की तैयारी है?
नहीं, बहुत भव्य स्वागत करेंगे हम लोग, जो है बिल्कुल एंजॉय करेंगे, पार्टी करेंगे, पूरा बैंड बाजे के साथ स्वागत करेंगे, जो कुछ होगा बहुत अच्छे तरह स्वागत करेंगे।
जी, शुभांशु की सकुशल वापसी हो गई, क्या कहेंगे?
हम लोग के लिए बहुत गर्व का पल है।
We have our third crew member now egressing the vehicle. Squad is all smiles for this, which I love to see.
It's also our Rakshita and all smiles. It is wonderful to see all of them
through the
happy,
IGNIS program marked a pivotal step in the country's growing role in space
the fact that they're standing back on their feet, one can only imagine how difficult it is. And most importantly, they're seeing faces outside of themselves, outside of what they've seen for the past 18 days. They see different faces, and that sense of achievement, not just of concluding a successful mission, but returning back home safe. Of course, they know they have to go through that rehabilitation program, which is extremely crucial for the change that their bodies go through of what it was like being in space and now back on Earth to be in gravity. So it, of course, can be hugely disorienting, but these are trained astronauts. They know every bit of it. You know, Akshita, no matter how much of it you know it, it's only when it happens to you is when the realization of, you know, it really dawns upon. And so the third astronaut is out. Shubhanshu Shukla came out, all smiles.
Yep.
And this is how we are. Indians are expressive, but so is the case with all the astronauts.
True.
So far, 3 astronauts who have exited off the Dragon capsule, and of course the 4th one who will be brought out.
That's right. On the left of your screens is that moment, in case you missed it, of when Group Captain Shukla emerged from the Dragon capsule, sliding out as every astronaut was, and right after that, being helped up onto his feet, very gingerly walking, because it's essentially like, you know, a baby learning to walk again. That's how these astronauts will feel, getting used to gravity again. But it's good to see that they're on their feet. They spent just about 16 days in space, and that's why it's taking a bit of time for them to take those steps for Group Captain Shukla too. But mentally seeming to be very confident, very sure of what's happening, which is good to see. A thumbs up, a wave at the cameras there. I'm sure that's a wave that he's doing okay to everyone back home. A message that all is well, and I'm sure that's what his parents were watching out for. On the right of his screens, the live images right now of the last astronaut who's come out, Tibor Kapoor of Hungary, being the last one of the lot. Looks to be doing the best also, considering he's not just showing a thumbs up, but actually going ahead with a photo op with the crew there. But Tibor Kapoor is the last astronaut to be pulled out. And that's the end of that. We've got all the astronauts who've been pulled out now. With that, the Dragon capsule that they referred to as home for the last 22 hours comes to an end. They're back home, back on planet Earth, Group Captain Shukla. And we'll go full again to those images of Group Captain Shukla on the left of your screens, the exact moment. This was from just about 5 minutes ago when you had Group Captain Shukla emerging from the Dragon capsule. Let's go full now on Group Captain Shukla with all of the astronauts having emerged out of the capsule. Let's just focus on that picture of Shukla as he came out of the capsule. All smiles, waving at the cameras. I'm sure to send across a message back home, Suesha, that he's doing just fine.
Oh yes, absolutely. And what a moment it is, Akshita, for from, you know, and you were there. You were there in America. You were covering this moment. There was a delay initially. In fact, you and I were talking, and I asked you many a times that how much could this delay extend to? But fact is that safety and taking every precaution is priority, and that is exactly what the crew was working on. Then after the delay, we saw that it finally took off, and of course that big moment when we realized how big a mission it is, of what it is set to achieve, and these 14 days of how crucial it is for the Axiom 4 crew to be in space, to perform all those 60 experiments and much more, because this is a mission that eventually extended to 18 days. After 18 days, they've come back 22 hours that they have been in that cramped space inside this Dragon capsule. It's not easy for any of us to anyway pull through a flight that long, and to be in those spacesuits, to sit through those 22 hours, and now come out smiling. I mean, I can imagine it is a whirlpool of emotions, seeing so many faces after your back from this mission, knowing that you have achieved what you were set out to achieve. And now, of course, while very many targets lie ahead of them, and most importantly for Shubhanshu Shukla, who will be in Delhi on the 17th of August, is when he will also be meeting all the ISRO officials, planning for the next mission start. But here it is, a big thumbs up to all of them for having performed this mission successfully.
That's right. For him, you know, I'm sure there's a mixture of emotions, relief, happiness, but also I'm sure that they'll miss being at the International Space Station and the spectacular views. But the good news for Group Captain Shukla is that he's headed back there with mission Gaganyaan, which is expected in 2027. That's when he will be headed back to space. And the knowledge that he's had from this experience, invaluable essentially to what we're going to see in the coming months in the preparations by ISRO for our own such mission, Mission Gaganyaan. But this is the moment there. And these pictures will be etched in our minds for a long, long time of Group Captain Shukla, the first Indian to spend so many days in space, the first Indian at the International Space Station, second ever Indian to go to space. So this is a historic moment that we've been fortunate and lucky enough to witness and saw that exact moment of liftoff. Unfortunately, while I was in America, Suesha, I was there for about a week, delay after delay. So that meant that I didn't get to see the blast off. Not fortunate enough, unfortunately. But luckily, SpaceX has provided us all of these updates, these visual updates, and we're able to watch live history as it was scripted by Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla. And now, of course, it's over to August 17th when he returns back home, back to Delhi, back to, I'm sure, a big bang celebration. The next 7 days is essentially a rehabilitation program.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Akshita, I want to refer to the message that he sent out, where he said that if all of humanity comes together, there is absolutely nothing that you can't achieve. One can only imagine all that he has realized in this time period of, being in space outside of planet Earth, to realize what all they have achieved and how they have come through with it. And, of course, the first interview of Shubhanshu Shukla is awaited to what he'll say in terms of what the experience of the mission was, what he set out to do from here on. But yes, a lot that we are set out to achieve.
So everyone's wanting to hear from two people right now. From Group Captain Shukla's family, his parents, extremely emotional, extremely proud, and I'm sure extremely relieved. But let's listen in from them. Shambhu Shukla is joining us, Group Captain Shukla's father. Shukla ji, बहुत धन्यवाद हमसे बात करने के लिए. I'm sure you're feeling a mix of emotions, but हमको बताइए कि exactly कैसा लगा लैंडिंग के बाद, स्प्लैशडाउन के बाद?
बहुत खुशी है हम लोगों को, इतनी खुशी है कि मतलब ये है उनका मिशन पूरा होकर वो वापस हो रहे हैं. ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही खुशी का क्षण है और हम इसको जो है बहुत ही एंजॉय करके मनाना चाहते हैं कि उनकी जो वापसी हो बहुत अच्छी तरह हो. और ये हम ईश्वर से प्रार्थना करते हैं कि उनका जो वापसी हो वो अच्छी तरह हो. यही हमारी जो है ईश्वर से प्रार्थना है.
जी, आपकी और आपकी पत्नी के लिए भी ये काफ़ी मुश्किल समय रहा होगा, क्योंकि शुभांशु शुक्ला की सेफ्टी सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट थी इस मिशन में. डिले भी हुआ, थोड़ी अनसर्टनिटीज़ भी थी, पर जब उनके वो मैसेजेस आते रहे स्पेस से, मोदी जी से भी उन्होंने बात की और आप सभी कुछ देख रहे थे, कैसा लगता था? प्राइड महसूस होता था एज अ फादर? ऑफ कोर्स एवरी इंडियन फील्स इट, बट आपकी क्या फीलिंग थी?
बहुत अच्छा खुशी का क्षण था. वो उनके वापसी का जो है देखकर हमको लोगों को बहुत इतनी खुशी हुई कि शायद ही जो है ज़िंदगी में इतना खुश मिला हो, मतलब खुशी प्राप्त हुई हो. और ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही अद्भुत क्षण था कि बच्चे ने सफल जो है वापसी की, और ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही गौरव का क्षण है. हम बहुत ही उससे जो है संतुष्ट हैं कि मतलब ईश्वर ने जो है पूरी कृपा रखी बच्चे पर, और ये हमारे लिए सौभाग्य की बात है.
जी शंभू जी, ये तो शुरुआत है, अभी तो गगनयान मिशन भी है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज जस्ट व्हाट शुभांशु शुक्ला हैज स्टार्टेड विद. इंडिया इज ऑल सेट टू गो आफ्टर द गगनयान मिशन. शंभू जी, आप हमारे साथ हैं. अभी 17 तारीख को बताया जा रहा है कि शुभांशु वापस आएंगे, दिल्ली आएंगे. आपको क्या जानकारी मिल रही है? कब आपके बेटे से आप बात कर पाएंगे, उनसे मिल पाएंगे?
नहीं तो वो ये हमारे लिए तो बहुत ही था, अद्भुत क्षण था. मतलब कि जो है बच्चा इतनी दूर से मतलब ऐसे मिशन से वापस हो रहा है, और उसकी लैंडिंग भी अलग है जो कि मतलब हमारे सोच से परे है. और उसकी जो है सफल वापसी देखकर हम लोग कितने भाव विभोर हो गए, ये तो हमें पता है कि मतलब हम लोगों को कितनी खुशी हुई, ये अंदाज नहीं लगता.
अच्छा, आपसे पूछना चाहूँगी, अगर वो यहाँ होते तो आप क्या करते, क्या बोलते उनको पहली बात?
अरे उसको गले लगाते, उसको आशीर्वाद देते, और उसको बच्चे को जो है बहुत बहुत मतलब जो है इतनी बधाइयाँ देते कि मतलब शायद ही अब बाप जितना दे सकता है उस सबसे ज़्यादा, उससे भी ज़्यादा हम कोशिश करते कि उसको देते.
जी, आपका शुक्रिया करना चाहूँगी इंडिया टुडे से बात करने के लिए शंभू जी. बट आपके जाने से पहले एक और सवाल पूछूंगी. शुभांशु शुक्ला आज 140 बिलियन इंडियंस के लिए एक इतनी बड़ी इंस्पिरेशन बने हैं, कैसा लगता है आपको?
नहीं तो वो तो इस लायक हो ही गया, बेटा जो है इस लायक है कि मतलब उसको जो है सभी मतलब आदर्श मानते हैं कि मतलब जो है इस तरह उसने मेहनत की, इस तरह जो है उसने जो है अपने मिशन को पूरा किया है। ये उसके लिए बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है और हमारे लिए तो बहुत ये सपना है कि मतलब उसने ये कैसे कर दिया, कैसे क्या किया। ये तो ईश्वर की कृपा है और उसका ईश्वर की आशीर्वाद है कि उसका मिशन पूरा हुआ अच्छी तरह। ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही सुकून देने वाला, दिल को बहुत ही मतलब जो है इतनी मतलब खुशी प्राप्त हुई है कि शायद ही हम उसको शब्दों में बयान कर सकें।
All right, that is the proud father of Shubhanshu Shukla, Shambhu Shukla, in conversation with India Today. Thank you so much for speaking to us. A very overwhelming moment that it has been for the entire family. Shubhanshu's mother was in tears even when Shubhanshu was taking off, and now that her son has safely landed, coming out all smiles out of the Dragon capsule, proudly with the Indian flag on his sleeve. And there you hear the cheers, the cake cutting ceremony, and all of that is happening on the ground as everyone is elated. Shubhanshu Shukla is back. He is safe. He is sound. It is on the 17th that he is set to be in Delhi. He will also be meeting with all the ISRO officials. And this has been a very important mission. ISRO that invested 500 crores to get a seat for Shubhanshu Shukla, because this also prepares us for the Gaganyaan mission that India is set out to achieve. There you see on the left of your screens that historical moment of Shubhanshu Shukla, Shuks as he's famously known, and how his crew addresses him, who came out of the Dragon capsule, was brought out safely after all the checks were performed. And there he came out, all smiles. On the right, of course, in Lucknow, where celebrations have been on in full swing. His family, his friends, all those who've known him, especially this happening at the school that he studied, as 140 crore Indians harbor that feeling and feel that sense of pride for Shubhanshu Shukla, who has scripted history.
Well, good evening to all of you, and I'm joining you now, Suesha. I'm Anjali Istwal, and let me tell you, Suesha, I was in the newsroom when this landing happened, this splashdown, and the moments over there, everybody erupted in cheer, and we could see the delight on everyone's face. And similarly, now you can see on your screens how the family of Shubhanshu Shukla reacted to the moment when they splashed down. And when he came out, there you see him. Of course, a proud moment, as Suesha was telling you, a proud moment for those who have been following his journey, for people like us, for common people, Indians, who think that India's space program will now grow by leaps and bounds. Prime Minister also made a tweet, Suesha. He expressed his happiness. He encouraged Shubhanshu, and he mentioned that this is going to be a huge leap for Gaganyaan.
Oh yes, absolutely. And Anjali, you would remember that interaction that had taken place between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Shubhanshu Shukla while he was in space. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister, asking him how India looks from the International Space Station. And there he said that it is bigger than anything that I can see. Also, the very special message that Shubhanshu Shukla put out as he described his experience as magical, where he said that if all of humanity is set out to achieve that one goal, there is nothing that we can't achieve. So, you know, Anjali, Shubhanshu Shukla is back on Earth, and the entire Axiom 4 crew of the very many takeaways of the research that has been performed as a part of those 60 experiments. 14 days is the time that they were to spend on the International Space Station, and it got extended to 18 days. But now they are back safe and sound. Of course, the splashdown that happened at 2:30 a.m. their time, and it was pitch dark, so while we were hoping to see it better, but of course there was only that the lights could make us see, and all of them safe and sound, all of the checks that were performed, after which they have been brought out.
Absolutely. And now Shuchi Shukla, who is Shubhanshu's sister, joins us. And we've been speaking to her again and again. And she's a proud sister, I must say. Thank you, Shuchi, for speaking with us. Firstly, how was that moment when you saw Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, your younger brother, coming down? What was the moment like for you?
Thrilling, thrilling, thrilling. There is no other word than this. Highly excited, highly happy. I don't know how to control my emotions right now. I'm highly, highly, highly proud right now. And this is the moment we were waiting for it. He has made the history now. We were writing that he is writing the history. He has made the history right now. And so happy. My eyes, I cannot just unvisit that. I cannot remove my eyes from the screen still because he has to come out of that coop. But what to say? So happy, so happy.
Shuchi, we totally feel every emotion and we understand why you're out of words. In fact, your mother and your father have been so emotional. Your mother, all of India was watching her. She was all tears, praying for her son. She continued to do that till the very second that she saw her son emerge out. How has it been for the entire family?
Yes, of course, it's an emotional moment also. Though we were not thinking to cry, but we are Indians. We cry in all the moments, so in that happy moment also we were crying.
But Shuchi, this is a moment that everybody is sharing with you. You know, of course, the entire country, everyone, but there are people around you also who are sharing this moment, and they could really express it when they were waving those Indian flags. So how was it, that moment for you?
The goosebumps were there, and of course we cannot remove out that Indianness from our side. Anyways, wherever we are, whenever this kind of moment is going to be happen, our Indianness certainly comes out, and we were feeling very happy about it.
And you know, Shuchi, Shubhanshu has become an inspiration for everyone now. Every Indian, your brother has achieved this historic feat. What do you want to say to him?
That was the broader picture actually, and that was the motive. Ultimate motive is that only, that not many people should get the motivation from that, and especially the upcoming generation. So if they are getting the motivation, that is the best achievement I can say.
And in conversation with India Today, Shubhanshu Shukla's sister Anjali, and what a moment it has been for the entire family, you know, especially watching his mother from the studios where we have been covering this mission, where, you know, she was in tears even when he was taking off, and even today, till the last moment, she was praying for the safety of her son. I believe Samarth is also joining us from Lucknow. Anjali, let's quickly bring him in. Samarth, the cheers, the excitement, the celebratory pictures, and most importantly, the satisfaction that Shubhanshu Shukla has arrived safe and sound.
Well, exactly. That most
satisfying moment for the family, and also I've been joined by Ashish Gupta, one of the brothers of Shubhanshu Shukla. Ashish, warm welcome to you on India Today TV. What are your first comments after this touchdown? And we saw how Shubhanshu came out from the plane. What are your first thoughts? First thoughts to your channel. I would like to congratulate you, all the viewers of your esteemed channel, and 130 crore viewers on the Indians that Shubhanshu has done, bring his laurels to his nation, and we were very,
to his nation. And we were very, excited to see him when he was getting out of the capsule. And now we are worried about his well-being. And this is full of, exciting day from last 24 hours, because when he, undocked from that space station, we didn't got any update side, because when he was going.
Okay, Samarth, I'm really sorry. We'll have to stop you there. We'll try to connect with you again, because right now the transmission we are getting from you is a little interrupted. But we will try and get Samarth back and try and speak to the people who were present over there with the family, who were there witnessing that occasion with the family, one in the same emotion with them. But on your screens right now, you see the moment when Shubhanshu Shukla came out. And with him were the emotions of crores of people, Indians, who have been watching his journey, who have been tracking his every move, his lives, his messages that he's been sending everything, because this is an important moment for India. This
And
is
we've
the
got
first time an Indian went to the International Space Station.
Our second crew member exiting the spacecraft, and some big smiles.
Now let's listen what the Union Minister and the Minister of Science, Jitendra Singh, said about this occasion.
Sir, how big is this and how beneficial it will be for the country?
No, I think first of all, the kind of media excitement we see over here, the media hogging we see, I'm absolutely delighted. Though some of you guys, the media friends, may be feeling irritated by the kind of what is being witnessed, but I feel personally very much delighted that there's so much of excitement even in the media. So for the first time, space has given us space in media also. And this is all due to the space accomplishments of the recent few years, that we owe a lot to the enabling milieu which has been provided by Prime Minister Modi. As I said, it's of course a moment of pride for the whole world, but special moment of glory for India, because one of Mother India's illustrious sons is coming back, having performed a successful voyage and having also conducted the first of its kind experiments in the microgravity conditions in the space, which are going to have which have a great bearing on life, on human habitat, human existence, and which are going to be of benefit and utility not only to India but also for the rest of the world. And therefore, I think this is very much in keeping with the mantra of Vishwa Bandhu.
Well, you heard the minister over there. He said that the media might be irritated, but we can assure the minister that there is no irritation on our part. It is a historic moment, and most of us are privileged to cover it. And India has now an opportunity to grow by leaps and bounds as far as India's space mission is concerned. And not only just Shubhanshu Shukla's family over there celebrating, but the entire country is celebrating now. This is not just a celebratory moment. This is also a crucial moment, because after this, Shubhanshu will take forward the legacy of India's space mission. And now let's go back to Lucknow, to India Today's Samarth, and try and get an idea of how the atmosphere there was when the splashdown happened. Samarth, if you can hear me, please go ahead. You were speaking to a gentleman over there. Please take your conversation forward.
Well, exactly. I must tell you that the atmosphere out here is quite electrifying. The people, the members especially of Shubhanshu family, are quite emotional with this particular moment. I have been joined by Ashish Dikshit, brother of Shubhanshu Shukla. Ashish ji, warm welcome to you on India Today TV. My first straight question to you: how's the Josh after the touchdown?
Hi, sir. So this is the Josh, and it's very thrilling. It was for him. It is like a adventurous ride he has made. He said na kamal ki ride thi. So I think he has made proud. He has brought laurels to the nation. And through your channel, I would like to congratulate each and every viewers of yours, as well as 140 crore Indians who are watching this historic moment. This date will be engraved in golden letters across the world. And this is not the first flight. This is not the first flight. This is going to be the first flight of the many flights. And in future, the way, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla will lead this mission for Gaganyaan mission, I think, he will take all the other 3 astronauts to the space, and he will, create a new height of Indian space research program.
I saw tears in your eyes when the touchdown was happening. Not just you, even Shuchi, sister of Shubhanshu, and mother, father, all were crying. What was that moment? Can you please explain?
So you have always seen your real ones always attached to you, and they always concern about your well-being. And this is like daredevil game. Temperature is going to be around 1600 degrees centigrade, which is a small mistake can ruin not only all their lives and the hopes of all Indians. So that was very, very concerning for us, and we were not trying to cry. That was coming outside. It's emotional. Things were coming out instantly. But those were the happiness moments, not like we were crying for something. So
tears of joy, right?
Tears of joy, absolutely right, Samarth. Yeah.
So do you see that Shubhanshu has now become an inspiration for billions from here on?
Yes, even I was seeing a statement of Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. He was saying that we'll create universities who will increase the awareness about this
space research program. And nowadays, if you see, many universities have started offering into space research programs, whether it is in a graduation or into PG. And I think the new age, the new era people who are coming into study, they have explored that this is one of the best explored outside of this regular studies. So it's, yes, definitely he has created an awareness. And
you were standing there, was there any fear when the parachute was launched and the touchdown was about to happen, or when it entered the Earth's atmospheric area?
Yes, so as we have shown that initial up to 10 kilometer level, the speed was same, 27,000. And when it was some 10 kilometer below, the initial two parachute will have the great responsibility to slow down speed from 27,000 to some 900 kilometer per hour. And after that, those parachute get burned out. And the final parachute who really got an responsibility of holding that capsule, that was 4 parachutes. And when they came out at the height of 4 kilometer, we were confirmed that, because opening of second parachute is also very important. And when they came out and they were slow down speed from 900 to 20 kilometer per hour, so it was easy to get into the water.
You have a lot of knowledge, I can clearly see from the conversation we had yesterday and today. You have studied anything about space?
So I must tell you that what Shubhanshu Shukla is living his life, actually it was my dream, and he is living my dream.
Okay.
And it was a time when he filled the NDA form. Parents were very hesitant to put him into the NDA, but I holded them. I told them that this is not a profession where everyone has to fight. It can be taken as a career. And that's why, mere Mausi Mausaji, said that you are the only person who, we trusted and sent him to. Maine kaha, dekho, now where he is standing.
Okay, my final question to you. Explain the moment when the Indian flags were waving around, patriotic songs happening around in school. What was the feeling right there?
See, I must say that we all the people who love their country, like anything, and we have recently seen the Operation Sindoor and everything. And this moment has also come. So it was like we were fighting for something. We were fighting for India. We were fighting for India to, create a, niche into space industry. And we were very happy that has been made and created by Shubhanshu. So that was the moment.
Congratulations to you and all the very best.
Thank you so much.
Ashish Dikshitji, brother of Shubhanshu Shukla, with having tears in his eyes and clearly saying the patriotic feeling, the goosebumps, and also it was his dream also to do studies about the space, and that's why he had a lot of knowledge about the kilometers, about the range, about the atmospheric sphere, and that's what he told us about the entire feeling of the family of Shukla family when the touchdown happened. Back to you.
Right, Samad, thank you so much for bringing in that atmosphere and those feelings of Shubhanshu Shukla's brother. It seems that the space dream ran in the family. But now joining us is Radha Krishna Shukla. He is Shubhanshu's uncle. Thank you very much, Mr. Shukla, for speaking with us. We know what we went through as a country when he splashed down and the emotions that we went through. But you, as the family, what did you go through now that Shubhanshu has landed? What's going through your mind?
बहुत खुशी लग रही है, बहुत खुशी लग रही है। हमारा भतीजा है, बहुत खुशी लग रही है कि आज दिवाली तना मनाया जा रहा है। सब बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है हमारे लिए कि हम साथ रहे, साथ खेले, 12-13 साल साथ रहे। अब बात होती है फ़ोन पे तब भी बहुत बढ़िया अच्छा बताता है कि भैया पापा चाचा आ रहे हैं। बहुत अच्छा लगा हमें। यही सब खुशी है हमारे सब पूरे परिवार की खुशी है। सब पूरा परिवार हमारा खुश है कि हमारा एक लड़का निकला तो घर में इतना बढ़िया हर चीज़ मेंटेन करके निकला। देश के लिए बहुत बड़ी गौरव है। ये हमारी सभी वो है।
जी शुक्ला साहब, अब शुभांशु धरती पर वापस आ गए हैं तो उम्मीद है कि वो घर पे लोगों से भी मिल पाएंगे। तो आपको क्या लग रहा है, आप कब तक मिल पाएंगे उनसे?
अरे जितनी जल्दी आ जाए तो खुशी है, बहुत बड़ी खुशी है कि जितनी जल्दी हमारा भतीजा आ जाए हम बहुत खुश हैं। बहुत यही तो हमारी सब इच्छाएं हैं हमारी।
बिल्कुल, जाहिर तौर पर आप चाह रहे होंगे कि जल्द से जल्द वो घर आएं, अपने परिवार से मिले। आप शुभांशु के साथ कितना वक्त बिता चुके हैं? पहले आप कह रहे थे कि आप साथ में खेले, आप लोग साथ में कई चीज़ें की, तो कितना वक्त आप लोगों ने साथ गुजारा है?
के 13-14 साल साथ रहे और 2000 में चला गया था वो बेचारा। तो मुलाकात तो होती रहती, मुलाकात जब घर में है आता रहता है तो मुलाकात तो सब होती ही है, बातचीत होती है, फोन पे बातचीत सब होती है, सब चीज़ सब सब चीज़ करता है, ऐसा नहीं।
ये बात तो सही है कि जब एनडीए में चले जाते हैं तब तो बच्चे ही होते हैं, लेकिन 17 साल 18 साल की उम्र में चले जाते हैं। लेकिन एक चाचा भतीजा का जो रिश्ता होता है वो एक दोस्त की तरह भी होता है। तो कोई ऐसी यादें हैं जो आप हमारे साथ साझा करना चाहेंगे जो शुभांशु से जुड़ी हो?
हाँ, अरे दोस्ती वाला रिश्ता बहुत बड़ा। हम लोग खूब खेलते थे, वो हमको मारते, हम उनको खूब झगड़ा करते थे, कोई उसमें नहीं रोक टोक नहीं। हम खूब अच्छे थे, अच्छे तरह से खूब टीवी देखते थे रात में 12-1 बजे टीवी हम लोग दोनों लोग देखते थे। और 2 बच्चे थे, उनकी लड़कियां थी, वो भी खूब कभी कभी जब रहता था एंटीना तो वो हो जाता था तब हम ऊपर जाते थे तो उससे सीटी बजा के बताते थे कि आया कि नहीं आया। तो वो जुत्ते से वो भी कहता था आया चाचा आया। तो खूब देखते थे 12-1 बजे रात तक का। पढ़ाई भी करते थे, ऐसा नहीं, पढ़ाई भी हम भी करते थे, वो भी करता था। वही यादें आती हैं कि देखो कहाँ से कहाँ पहुँच गया, बहुत बड़ा।
तो चलिए, टीवी का सिग्नल आया ना आया हो, लेकिन आपका भतीजा वापस आ गया है। तो आपके लिए अब उनका घर वापस आना, ये कितना भावुक वक्त है?
अरे बहुत मोमेंट है, इसके लिए बहुत बड़ा खुशी है, बहुत देश की खुशी है, हमारी खुशी है, सब खुशी, बहुत बड़ी खुशी है इसके लिए बहुत।
क्या आपको लगता है शुभांशु अब करोड़ों लोगों के लिए एक इंस्पिरेशन बन चुके हैं?
अरे बहुत देश के लिए बहुत प्रेरणा बन गए, नाम जो पूरा देश नाम ले रहा है, यही ये खुशी बहुत बड़ी है। यहाँ तो मोहल्ले में एक दूसरे को नहीं जानता है, वो तो देश के लिए इतनी बड़ी खुशी है, बहुत बड़ी खुशी है।
शुक्रिया शुक्ला जी हमसे बात करने के लिए। आप सबको बधाई, आपके परिवार को बधाई, और उम्मीद करते हैं कि शुभांशु से जल्दी आप लोगों की मुलाकात हो। शुक्रिया। So a proud moment there for the family and they're expressing it. But after completing the space voyage, India's pride, Shubhanshu Shukla, will undergo a 7-day rehabilitation program. This will give Shuks and his crew time to regain the muscle strength they may have lost after staying in zero gravity for an extended period of time. You take a look at this report. We are going to bid you goodbye and see you after the break.
Even after 18 days in space, even after a 25.5-hour journey back to Earth, for Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, the mission doesn't end with Splashdown. Like all astronauts, Shubhanshu and his 3 other crew members will spend 7 days in rehabilitation. Astronauts need rehabilitation post-splashdown because space flight causes major changes in their body, mainly due to lack of gravity. They need to undergo therapy for atrophy to help regain muscle strength and bone density. They also undergo cardiovascular deconditioning therapy to recover from their cardiovascular functions. They receive treatment for vestibular system changes to readjust their balance and coordination. They go through psychological adjustment as well to readjust to Earth's sensory-rich environment and social routines, which can be overwhelming to return to. Rehabilitation often includes physical and psychological support, as well as counseling to help astronauts adapt mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Brace for drogue window.
Other astronauts like Sunita Williams also went through a 45-day NASA rehabilitation program to recover from their 9-month space expedition.
Other than Sunny Williams.
The duration of rehabilitation varies depending on the length of the expedition.
3 new astronauts.
But as he's done with everything else on his space sojourn so far, we are certain Shuks will pass this test as well with flying colours. Bureau Report, India Today.
You are watching India Today.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.